Okay, we're at the final section of this unit. This is a long unit. We're going to just review parallel and perpendicular lines. So it's not really anything new. I'm just going to do a couple of examples with you of each type. Just as a quick, if I put them together. So, number one, write an equation. And then I'm going to give you two things that you have to do. Okay? A, parallel to y equals 2x plus 5, passing through point 0.21. All right, so let's get working here. The first thing I told you have to do whenever you're doing any kind of finding a line, your first thing is going to find and label the slope. Okay, you could graph this first, or you could find and label the slope. I'm not asking you to graph it this time, so I'm going to look for the slope. The slope is right here, y equals 2x plus 5, and the slope in that equation is the 2, not the x, just the 2. That's my slope, okay? So there's my slope. I'm going to label it. I'm going to actually write it down here. M equals 2. I don't need the rest of this equation up here, okay? I don't need the 5. I'm going to use y and x, but I'm going to use it in a different equation. That 5 is part of the original line. We don't need that because we need a new y-intercept. So all I needed to do was kind of harvest the slope, and then I'm done with this for now. If I didn't ask you to graph it, you don't need it for anything else. The second step is find and label x1, y1. Okay, well here's my point that it needs to pass through. So there's my x1, y1. So I found it. Now I'm going to write it down and I'm going to label it. So here it is, 2, 1, and I'm going to call that x1, y1. Okay, my next step is to fill in the values of the point slope form of a linear equation. So let's write the point slope form. It's y minus y1 equals m times the quantity, which means put parentheses, x minus x1. Okay, now remember, we have to always have a y and an x in there if we're talking about a graph of a line, unless we're talking vertical or horizontal line. So we are leaving our y and our x. What we need to replace is our m, our x1, and our y1. So let's do that. So we have y. Oh, let's do this in green. I'm going to write down what's going to stay. Y minus m parenthesis, oh, not m. We're going to replace m with an actual number. X minus close parenthesis. Okay, you can go left to right. You can fill in any way you want. We know that y1 is 1, so I'm putting that in there. We know that m is 2, so I'm putting that in there. And we know that x1 is 2. Be careful. Now, I didn't ask, well, it didn't say how I want you to write the equation. If I don't tell you, you don't have to do this next step. But we're going to solve this, and we're going to write this in slope-intercept form, okay? Which means we need it into y equals mx plus b form. It's always good to practice that. All right, so I'm going to distribute the 2. So I now have, let's try gray, y minus 1 equals 2x minus 4. Don't forget to times the 2 times the 2. My final step is to get y by itself, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Remember that 1 gets added to the plain old number, not to the x, because they're different animals. You can't put them together. So now we have y equals 2x minus 3. Now we know our slope should be the same as our original equation, which was 2x plus 5, y equals 2x plus 5, but we should have a different y-intercept. In this case, our y-intercept is negative 3. Okay, let's go to the next part, b. Now in this one, I'm going to ask for something different. I'm going to say in b, I'm going to write an equation perpendicular to y equals negative 1/3 x minus 4. That passes through, again, we always need a point, through 0.57. Okay, let's go through our steps. First step is to find your slope and label it. Now this is going to be a little different. I'm finding my slope. There it is. I'm going to write down m equals negative 1/3. Wow, that wasn't a very good highlighting. See if that's any better. All right, so I'm going to say m equals negative 1/3, but I can't stop here. And why is that? I hope you know the reason. The reason is right here, this word, perpendicular. If I'm talking about a line that's perpendicular, they don't have the same slope. They have opposite reciprocal slopes. So we have to change the sign and flip it over. So we need the perpendicular slope. Remember, perpendicular, this just means perpendicular slope. We're going to take 1/3. Whoops, let's make that an equal sign, not that. We're going to take 1/3, negative 1/3. We're going to change its sign so it's positive, and we're going to write the reciprocal. Reciprocal means we flip it over, so that's 3/1. You can leave it as plus 3/1, or you can simplify it to just a 3. So now we have our slope. We don't need this equation anymore, and we don't need this slope anymore. We're just dealing with this because we need a line perpendicular, so it shouldn't have the same slope. The next step is to find and label x1, y1. Well, here's the point x1, y1. And I don't know how to highlight very well, do I? Okay, there, that's a little better. Okay, so I'm going to write down 5, 7, and I'm labeling it x1, y1. Okay, now we have what we need to write our perpendicular line linear equation. Okay, so let's go back and let's write down a point slope equation, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay, let's leave what we know we don't need to fill in. And let's fill in what we know. Well, y1 is 7, so let's put that in there. M, I keep writing that m like we don't want that m. We want an actual number. The actual number is 3. And x1 is 5. There we go. Now we could stop there. If I ask you to put it into Y-intercept form, then you should know how to do that. I'm going to distribute the 3. So now I have y minus 7 equals 3x minus 15. I'm not quite done yet because I need y by itself. I need to find out not only what is the slope of this line, but the y-intercept. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And I'm going to get y equals 3x minus 8. Watch your negatives there. Now I know the graph of the line perpendicular. If I were to graph this original one up here that I crossed out, and I was to graph that with y equals 3x minus 8, they will be perpendicular, which means they will meet at right angles. You are going to need to know this a lot for geometry. Okay, so knowing that, we're going to do one more problem. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. So if you need to pause it at any point, and in fact, I would pause it, try it, and then see if you got the right answer. You could always fast forward through the stuff if you got the right answer. Okay, write an equation. Whoa, I don't know how to spell the word right. Write an equation. Okay, A, parallel to 2x plus 3y. Oh no, I made this hard on you. Passing through 4, 2. Why did I make this hard on you? Well, if I go to find the slope, can I find it just looking at this? What form is that linear equation in? I hope you know it's in standard form. You cannot just look at standard form and know the slope. So we have to put this in slope-intercept form so we know it. Okay? So the first thing I need to do with this equation, I'm trying to get y by itself. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I'm just going to get right to work here. So 3y equals negative 2x plus 6. I still don't know the slope because I need y equals. So I have to divide every piece of each side of the equation by 3. That's the only way to continue to follow the rules of algebra. If you don't, you've broken the rules, which means you're going to get the wrong answer. So y equals negative 2/3 x plus 2. Now we can start. Do we know our slope? We need to harvest our slope. We need to find our slope. Here it is. Now that we've put it in slope-intercept form, we can find our slope pretty easily. There it is, negative 2/3. Now you need to ask yourself, am I writing parallel or perpendicular? In this case, we're doing parallel, so we just need the same slope. Okay? So that's m equals negative 2/3. Found and labeled my slope. Now I'm going to find and label my points, x1, y1. There they are. I didn't even put a lot of words on this one. Okay? x1, y1, 4, 2. Find and label. This is going to help you keep your mind organized. Next, I'm going to write the point slope version of a linear equation. I'm then going to rewrite it, taking out the parts that I'm going to replace. Let's see if I can remember to leave m out this time. Okay, so y1 is 2, m is negative 2/3, and x1 is 4. We can leave it like that, or we can change it into slope-intercept form. I'm going to do a quick change into intercept form because I think the quiz has a couple questions about it. So I'm going to distribute that negative 2/3. Remember, in order to do multiplying of fractions, it's top times top, bottom times bottom. And in this case, make sure I did this right, that would be positive. Whoops, positive 8/3. Why is it positive? Negative times a negative, okay? On the other side, we have y minus 2. I'm going to add 2 to both sides to get y by itself. This is where I would pick up my calculator and I would do 8/3, and I've shown you how to do this, plus 2, math, frac, enter, enter. And you should get 14/3. I want you to practice using your calculator with fractions. That's going to help you on the SAT. That's going to give you a couple extra seconds to do other problems on the SAT. You don't want to waste your time. Okay, I shouldn't say waste. You don't want to use your time when you have a tool that can do it for you. Okay? You should know how to add fractions. But as Mr. McGrath always likes to say, should is a funny word. So make sure you know how to use your calculator correctly. One more thing today. So again, let's try this. B. This time we're going to write an equation perpendicular to 4x plus 5y equals 10. And the point that we're going to pass through is 4, 7. First step, find and label my slope. Well, where is my slope? You better not say it's 4 or 5 or 10 or anything like that. This is in the wrong form. This is in standard form, and it needs to be in slope-intercept. So let's get to work. I have to fix it. I'm going to minus 4x from both sides. Now I have 5y equals negative 4x plus 10. Still not done. I still don't know my slope. I need to divide every piece of this equation by 5 to follow the rules of algebra. So y equals negative 4/5 x plus 2. Those of you asking the question, do I have to show that work? Absolutely. You have to show these steps. These steps are important so I can see that you still know how to solve an equation. Okay? Now again, we're going to find and label the slope, but before we do, let's make sure we're finding and labeling the right type of slope. We're going to need the perpendicular. Okay, so let's find and label the original slope, which is negative 4/5. And I'm going to write that down. Okay, so negative 4/5. The original slope is negative 4/5, but that's not what we want. We want the perpendicular slope, which again is opposite reciprocal. Change the sign, flip the equation. It was negative, it's now positive. It was 4/5, it's now 5/4. This is the slope we need. We do not need this anymore if I'm not asking you to graph it. Okay? Now I need to find and label x1, y1, my point that I'm passing through. Here it is, 4, 7. So I'm going to write that down, 4, 7. x1, y1. Find and label. Then I'm going to write the point slope form of a linear equation, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. Rewriting the equation, leaving blanks where I need to fill them in. I need to put in y1 is 7. Slope is positive 5/4. You can keep the plus on there if you want, or you can just write 5/4. It's understood positive then. And x1 is 4. If I don't ask you to put it in slope-intercept form, you may leave it like this. However, I'm going to continue so you can see me solve it. So it's going to be distribute the 5/4. That gives you 5/4 x minus, now be careful, top times top, bottom times bottom. 5 times 4 is 20. 4 times 1 is 4. And I'm doing an extra step here. This is an extra step. You could leave it off if you use your calculator to multiply the fractions. That's supposed to be an arrow, and it doesn't look like an arrow. Let's try again. You could skip this step. This is a step you could or could not use. Or you may realize that 5/4 times 4 over 1 can simplify to just 5. Okay? Now we're almost done. We're going to add 7 to both sides. And now we have y equals 5/4 x plus 2. Watch your negatives. Okay? All right, that's it for this unit. Make sure you know all this. Do the homework on this. There's a lot of work to be done in the homework, I agree. But it's good practice. There's a lot going on here. You're solving equations. You're finding slopes. You're thinking about y-intercepts. You're solving for not just solving an equation. You're solving with 2 variables in there. This is a lot of good stuff that you're going to need in your future math. Okay?